on Gallinari's probably biggest knocks are his speed at this point of his career. He's moving up and down the court. He's got great defensive IQ, but he maybe doesn't get in front. He's not as physical as a lot of players at that position. The player we have right on top of him, on top of Gallinari, right? As you said, Gallinari was a start of the next level players in this list. The next one we have here, someone who was, again, just like Aaron Gordon, most people would probably consider him a small forward. We have Tobias Harris over in Philly. They got rid of Horford for a reason. He's coming in at power forward. He's going to start every game at power forward. Has Simmons going to be a point guard. They're going to be more mobile. He's a great player to begin with. He gets his 20 and 6, 20 and 7. He gets that even on a team with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. He got that on a team with Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, and Jimmy Butler. He's a great player. He's probably well undervalued at this spot. He's a former All-Star, I believe. He does his 20 and 7 for 5 years in a row now. He's solid.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a guy who, like you said, seems so undervalued probably because of where he's playing today in Philly, where he is the third fiddle. But we often forget that the Los Angeles Clippers, in the years that they were supposed to be down, had a team centered around Tobias Harris for the most part. And that was a pretty good team that went to the playoffs. It was very hard-nosed and almost reminded me of this year's Denver Nuggets in a lot of ways. I really liked Harris on that team a lot more than I do on a team like Philly. Even though I wasn't a huge fan on him on Detroit, for whatever reason, I just loved him in the hard-nosed role with the Clippers. Like you said too, a guy who a lot of people might view as a small forward, but based on the changes that happened, the fact Horford's gone, we know Embiid's going to start, Howard likely won't, and I forget the young kid's name. I don't want to butcher it either because I know it's a European.
Bible.
There, he'll be starting at small forward, and he might not have the most offensive versatility either, but on defense, this was already a kid who I think was sixth or seventh in steals and small forward last year. So that's a guy on his own who I think will get starting minutes definitely, and that's where we're going to see Tobias Harris, just like you said, be in this power forward role. 20 and 7, you can't ask much more for power forward. Hits his free throws, 80% rate. He did have under a steal per game, which I mean, for a guy who's on the floor as much as he is, and where you don't have guys like Embiid who are really doing much in that realm either, you definitely want to pick up a bit. But I mean, again, he's a power forward. You don't necessarily expect 2, 3 steals per game by any means. And other than that, I'd say like maybe you want him to take less than 5 attempts per game from three. It's a guy 35%. Usually, you don't want a guy like that shooting 2 or 3 more than 2 or 3 per game. He obviously feels like it might be mandatory because they don't have a lot of 3-point shooting. But like I said,
Ben
ideally,
Simmons.
yeah, ideally, I think you want that number coming down to you might want him to cut that 4.9 figure close to in half if I'm Tobias Harris, and I want the best version of him.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. He's got to get his shooting in check, considering that's not what he's best at. He does have bring a lot of things to the floor. Like this, as compared to every single other person we're going to name in this list, he's been so undervalued his whole career. He's played on what 5 teams now at this point.
Mhm.
He's been moved around the NBA so much. Nobody else ahead of him has been on more than two, I believe. It really just goes to show that he he might not be of that upper echelon that we really think he is. Like I thought, whenever I was first putting this together, I thought he would be in the top 10 for sure,
Yeah,
just
I was
because his
gonna
numbers show us that
say,
he is that all star. He is that player. He can be on that team. Like with the Clippers, he was an all star. He
yeah,
was that leader. He can be that player. We just undervalue him so much in Philly because we don't even think of him as third best player. We think of him as the fourth best player. We think of him as, well, now the third best player only because Horford had a down year, only because Jimmy Butler left. It's a little, with his skill level, he's like Aaron Gordon, but has put together a much more storied career.
which
He's
is
put together a great, amazing career, and he's only like 3 spots ahead of Aaron Gordon.
yeah, which is hilarious too because the Magic had them both and they chose Aaron Gordon. I mean, yeah, and I mean the funny thing is too, they probably could have got more for Aaron Gordon than they did Tobias Harris, and Tobias Harris still ended up the better player. And I
Yep.
don't think Aaron Gordon will ever be better than Tobias Harris either.